Have you ever stood in front of a flashing, music-filled slot machine, dropping in that coin full of hope, your heart racing as you wait for the reels to stop spinning? You've probably heard countless times, maybe even from a smiling casino staff member, that slot machine outcomes are completely random, that winning or losing is all down to luck, and that the only variable is whether Lady Luck is smiling on you today. But if you truly believe casinos would leave their billions of dollars in annual profits to the whims of an invisible, untouchable, utterly unpredictable random fate, you're dead wrong, and spectacularly so. The truth is far more complex, far colder, and far more shocking than you might imagine. Today, I'm going to rip away the warm, fuzzy veil and take you into the heart of the casino's most guarded secrets. The slot machine, that endlessly enticing entertainment buddy in your eyes, isn't entirely random. It's a meticulously designed profit machine, built on complex mathematical models and deep psychological insights. Every spin, every win, every heart-wrenching so-close moment, it's not by chance. Today, I'll use the clearest data, the most intuitive charts, and the simplest language to guide you step by step in uncovering how casinos build an unassailable mathematical empire behind the massive smokescreen of randomness. By the end of this journey, you'll see the game's true nature. You'll no longer be a player fueled by hope and prayers, but a clear-eyed observer who understands its underlying logic. Let's start with a concrete, quantifiable experiment. Picture a typical modern electronic slot machine sitting in the heart of a luxurious Las Vegas casino. Before it left the factory, its software was programmed with a precise parameter called the return-to-player rate, or RTP. This machine's RTP is 95.13%. What does that number mean? It's a cold, hard promise. Over the long run, for every dollar a player puts into this machine, they'll get back, on average, $0.9513. The remaining 4.87% is the casino's house edge, their mathematical weapon to ensure profits. To simulate real casino operations, we let this machine spin 5,000 times. That's roughly the number of plays a popular slot might see in a busy day. Since we're told the outcomes are random, we can't predict the exact results of these 5,000 spins before starting. All we know is that, theoretically, the final return rate should hover around 95.13%. Now, the experiment begins. The reels spin furiously, lights flash, and sound effects alternate between thrilling and soothing. After 5,000 spins, we crunch the numbers and find a final return rate of 98.18%. This result is intriguing. It's higher than the preset 95.13%, meaning that over these 5,000 spins, the machine actually lost money, and players on the whole came out ahead. This seems to perfectly confirm the existence of randomness and luck. Look, the outcome isn't fixed, it can even favor the player. But hold on to that number, 98.18%, because it's just a surface-level data point, a carefully crafted illusion in the grand truth. Now, let's shift perspectives. Instead of just looking at the final result, let's plot the process of these 5,000 spins on a chart, with the x-axis showing the number of spins and the y-axis showing the real-time return rate. What kind of curve do you see? In the early stages, say the first few dozen or even few hundred spins, the curve is like a runaway roller coaster. Maybe at spin 20, a lucky player hits a decent combination, and the return rate shoots up to 150%. But the next 50 spins might yield nothing, plunging the rate to a low of 70%. This wild, erratic fluctuation is the core of a slot machine's allure. It creates intense uncertainty, making you believe the next spin could bring a massive payout or leave you with nothing. This feeling is what we call short-term volatility. However, as the number of spins grows, extending from 100 to 1,000, then to 3,000 and 5,000, you'll notice something peculiar. That curve, once jumping like an EKG, starts to smooth out. The swings become smaller. It still has ups and downs, but they're more like deep ocean currents than crashing surface waves. By the end of the 5,000 spins, the line settles at that 98.18% we saw. Though this single experiment's result is higher than expected, the trend itself, from wild swings to gradual convergence, is a critical signal. One sample might be a fluke, but casinos never rely on a single machine or a single night. Their empire is built on vast amounts of data. So, let's scale up our experiment. We now run 10 parallel experiments, observing 10 identical slot machines in the casino, each spinning 5,000 times independently. The experiment begins like a horse race. Early on, the 10 machines perform wildly differently. Machine 3 might get lucky, hitting a winning streak and pushing its return rate past 200%. Meanwhile, Machine 7 is like a money-sucking black hole, with players losing left and right, its return rate crashing below 50%. It all looks chaotic and random, but as the 5,000 spin finish line approaches, that invisible hand takes over. All the curves, no matter how wild they started, begin converging toward a central point. When the experiment ends, we check the final scores. The return rates are 98.18%, 94.5%, 102.1%, 91.33%, 95.89%, 99.01%, 88.76%, 96.24%, 93.55%, and 97.8%. See, the results still vary, some far above 95.13%, others far below. One machine's return rate is a catastrophic 88.76%, while another hits an exciting 102.1%. From a player's perspective, this is pure luck. The person playing Machine 7 feels cursed, while the one on Machine 3 thinks they're chosen by the gods. But the casino manager sees a different picture. They add up the 10 results and divide by 10 to get an average, 95.736%, a number strikingly close to the theoretical 95.13%. It still seems random because no physical law guarantees all 10 results won't be above or below 95%. It's possible, but in the world of statistics, that possibility is vanishingly small. So far, everything we've seen seems to fit within the random framework: fluctuations, uncertainty, individual variability. But to truly uncover the non-random secret of slot machines, we need a new perspective and a chart that will blow your mind, completely reshaping how you view this game. Instead of tracking a single machine's return rate over time, let's do this. We run a ton of 5,000 spin experiments, say 200 or even 1,000. Each experiment produces a final return rate. We round these rates and count how often each percentage point appears. For example, in our experiments, 88% might show up once, 90% twice, 95% 5 times, and so on. Then, we plot these as a bar chart, with the x-axis showing return rate percentages and the y-axis showing how often each occurs. With just 10 experiment results, the chart looks chaotic, like randomly stacked blocks with no clear pattern. Still the realm of randomness. But when we increase to 200 experiments, a miracle starts to happen. You might vaguely notice that the bars around 95% seem taller than those on either side. A fuzzy pattern emerges, but it's not quite convincing yet. However, when we have enough results, say 1,000, 5,000, or even 10,000 experiments, the real magic appears. Those seemingly random data points, as if drawn by an invisible magnetic force, start aligning systematically. Ultimately, they form a smooth, symmetrical, flawless shape, a bell curve, or in statistical terms, a normal distribution. This bell curve is the blueprint of casino profits, the ultimate proof of slot machines' non-random nature. The curve's peak, where results cluster most frequently, sits precisely at 95.13%. The farther you move from the center, the lower the curve, meaning the odds of extreme return rates, like 120% or 70%, get smaller and smaller. In the short term, a single experiment's result might seem random, landing anywhere on this curve. But with enough spins and enough samples, the shape of this bell curve becomes almost identical every time. Its form is 100% predictable. This is the true secret of casino operations. They don't care about individual game outcomes. They don't care if you win $500 tonight or lose $1,000. You or any player are just a tiny, randomly bouncing data point on this massive chart. What casinos care about is the curve's overall shape. They know that as long as enough players play enough games on enough machines, this stable, predictable bell curve will always emerge. And the curve's center point, that 95.13%, will deliver millions, even tens of millions, in guaranteed profits. This isn't gambling. It's mathematics. But our exploration is just beginning. You might ask, why? How do slot machines achieve this? What's the mechanism inside? To answer, we must dive into the machine's core and meet the so-called random number generator, RNG. Don't be fooled by the word random. In computer science, an RNG is actually a pseudo-random number generator. It doesn't produce truly unpredictable events like radioactive decay. Instead, It's an incredibly complex algorithm, a program following a specific mathematical formula. At its core is a seed number, which the algorithm uses to perform a series of intricate calculations, generating a long string of seemingly chaotic, patternless numbers. In the short term, these results are utterly unpredictable to an outside observer. But over the long run, they precisely follow a fixed probability distribution. It's like flipping a coin. A single toss might be heads or tails, you can't predict it. But flip it 1,000,000 times, and the ratio of heads to tails will almost certainly approach 50/50ths. A slot machine's return rate works the same way. That 95.13% is the inevitable result of the pseudorandom number generator and its complex mathematical model, calculated with pinpoint precision. Casinos rely on this unshakable mathematical ratio to secure their long-term profits. To illustrate this more vividly, let's return to our experiment. This time, we increase the spins on a single machine from 5,000 to 500,000, equivalent to weeks or even months of continuous play. We plot the return rate over spins again. You'll see that in the first few thousand spins, the curve still fluctuates, but compared to before, the swings are noticeably smaller. As spins pile up past 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, the curve flattens into an almost perfectly horizontal line, locked tightly around 95.13%, with deviations of maybe a few hundredths of a percent. This is no coincidence. It's the cold, hard law of mathematics at work, the power of the law of large numbers. Casino operators know this well. No matter how players play, no matter the short-term wins or losses, as long as the sample size is large enough, meaning as long as players keep playing, the return rate will inexorably return to that preset value. Now, you might raise a perfectly logical question. If outcomes are so predictable, why do we hear about people hitting massive jackpots on slots, even life-changing sums? Doesn't that contradict long-term predictability? The answer lies in the structure of that bell curve we saw. The curve's tails, those low-probability extremes, are not impossible. In millions of spins, there will be a few moments when the pseudorandom number generator lands on the exact number corresponding to a massive jackpot. A player might bet a single dollar and hit the jackpot, walking away with a fortune. Their story spreads, becoming the casino's best advertisement, luring more players to try their luck. But that single, extreme win doesn't budge the curve's overall trend. Casinos aren't worried about these rare lucky winners. They know that for every jackpot, thousands or tens of thousands of other players are contributing to the curve's main body, the vast region where return rates fall below 100%. From a macro perspective, a jackpot payout is easily offset by countless small losses with room to spare. Over the long term, the data ruthlessly smooths out these so-called surprises. It's like a lottery. Someone always wins the big prize, becoming an overnight millionaire. But the lottery company never loses money because their total revenue far exceeds the total payouts. Those odds were calculated precisely by actuaries before the lottery even launched. Slot machines operate on the exact same principle. That jackpot winner is just a statistically inevitable low-probability event. To further dissect this intricate mechanism, we need to peek into the slot machine's internal logic. Every slot machine's software contains a critical table called the pay table. This table lists all possible symbol combinations on the screen, along with their corresponding win probabilities and payout amounts. These combinations might number in the thousands or, in modern multi-line slots, millions. But no matter how complex, each combination's probability is meticulously set by the designers. The core technology behind this is called virtual reals. The 3 or 5 reals you see on the screen aren't physical. They're visual representations of the real mechanism. Inside the software, each reel is a virtual ring with many stop positions, say 256 or 1024. Each symbol, like cherries, bells, or the jackpot 7, is assigned to these stops. Crucially, the assignment isn't equal. For example, on a reel with 256 virtual stops, the jackpot 7 might be assigned just 1 stop. Cherries might get 20 stops, and the low-value bar symbol might get 50. Blank symbols, which yield no payout, take up the rest. This means the odds of landing on a 7 are 1 to 256, while landing on a cherry is 20 to 256. When you press the spin button, the RNG instantly generates 3 numbers for a 3-reel machine, say 11, 187, and 54. The machine checks which stop positions these numbers correspond to on each virtual reel and what symbols are at those stops. Then, the animated reels spin elegantly for a few seconds before stopping to display the resulting symbols. So, the outcome is decided the millisecond you press the button. The animation is purely for entertainment. Now you can see how the return rate is precisely calculated. Designers compute the total probability of all winning combinations, e.g., 37s is 1/256*1/256*1/256. Multiply each by its payout, and sum them up to get the machine's total return rate, 95.13%. This number is a mathematical law hardwired into the machine's code. Every seemingly random spin is actually a sample from this massive, controlled probability matrix. What's even more astonishing is that slot machine design isn't just cold mathematics. It's infused with deep player psychology. The flashing lights, upbeat sound effects, and the rhythm of the spinning reels aren't random additions. Their sole purpose is to keep you playing longer. Psychologists call it variable ratio reinforcement. Experiments show that unpredictable, random rewards are the most addictive. The occasional small wins from a slot machine are this reinforcement in action. They make you feel good, like you're winning, encouraging you to keep feeding coins. There's an even sneakier design called losses disguised as wins. Imagine you're playing a multi-line slot, betting $2, say, 20 lines at 10 cents each. The spin ends, and the machine blares triumphant music, flashing celebratory animations, telling you you've won $1. Your brain registers a win, sparking a bit of joy. But in reality, you put in $2 and got back $1, you lost $1. This design blurs the line between winning and losing, letting players feel the thrill of victory while steadily losing money, significantly extending playtime. And those almost won the jackpot moments, like two 7s landing on the pay line, with the third just above or below, are deliberately programmed to happen more often than pure randomness would allow. Studies show these near-miss scenarios intensely stimulate the brain's reward centers, creating excitement almost as strong as an actual win. They make you feel you're one step away from success, powerfully urging you to try again. Casinos don't need to cheat. They even welcome regulation. The entire system, from mathematical models to psychological triggers, is already perfectly engineered for profit. Let's do one more thought experiment to solidify this. Imagine you and 9 friends decide to take on that 95.13% RTP slot machine. You each agree to play 5,000 spins, totaling 500,000 spins. When you compare results, they might vary wildly. You might get lucky, hitting a 110% return rate, winning money and feeling like a gambling god. Your friend John might break even at 96%. But Jane might have terrible luck with an 80% return rate, losing big. From each of your individual experiences, the game feels full of luck and uncertainty. But if you pool everyone's data, total money bet versus total winnings, and calculate the average return rate, you'll be shocked to find it's extremely close to 95.13%. This isn't magic. It's the relentless power of the law of large numbers. Casinos use this macro-level inevitability to offset micro-level uncertainty. They ensure that no matter how hard individual players try, or how lucky or unlucky they are, the overall outcome is always in their control. Now, let's return to that beautiful yet brutal bell curve. This chart isn't just a visualization of data. It's the ultimate blueprint of casino profits. This peak at 95.13% is the center. The curve slopes symmetrically downward on both sides, forming a predictable probability distribution. In the short term, a single gaming session might land anywhere on the curve, maybe in the profitable right tail, maybe in the losing left tail, seemingly all luck. But the more you play, the more your personal average return rate acts like an object pulled by gravity, inching closer to that central peak. This is why casinos don't worry about your occasional big wins. They know that the more you play, the closer your results get to their favorable mathematical expectation, meaning the more you lose. To make this even clearer, imagine a more detailed chart. We take 1,000 identical slot machines, each spinning 1 million times, and plot their final return rates. What do you see? Over 99% of the machines will have return rates tightly clustered between 94% and 96%. A rare few, maybe 1 or 2, might hit extremes like 90% or 100%. But the average across all 1,000 machines will always approach 95.13%. The shape of this chart is virtually eternal. Casinos rely on this ironclad stability to rake in astronomical profits.